Hello, this is Robert Guberud with Prolifics. We're going to go through a short overview of using the business process management system, the exception set dashboard and information analyzer to monitor and remediate SAP data post GoLive. So we're going to go through an overview, and then we're going to look at a day in the life of a data steward, of a data owner, and a data manager to manage SAP data and remediate the quality. As an overview, we have the governance rules in the Information Governance Catalog. These are put together by the business team as requirements for the Information Analyzer rule that is then developed. So in this case, rule English language it must be populated. The category group must be populated. It must not also equal blank, null, or have a default value of ZZZZ. This is implemented as an information analyzer rule called must not be blank or null. Once that rule is run, it is part of the dashboard, and we can look at the exception sets. An exception set are those rows that failed that rule or the many rules. And we see that here organized by project, by provider, by owner. Each rule has an owner. Each rule has a priority, high, low, and medium. By status, whether it's being fixed, whether it's just been created, what status it is, and then the number of exceptions that are in that. Now, this is the overview. There's also a view for manager and a view for data steward as well. When the information analyzer rule is executed, it sends the exception sets to the exception manager dashboard. In here, we are able to look at the records and also to send it on to the stewardship center. So we use this less on a daily basis, more just as a go-between the information analyzer rule and the business process management system. And now here is the stewardship center with a small part of the workflow. This would be a steward logging in to see the exception records that they can fix. However, what we've put together is a much larger business process, 3 swim lanes. The steward is the centerpiece, the center of the primary actor, who can log in, escalate to the manager, request remediation from the owner, fix it themselves, and other possibilities. But this is the full flow that was implemented as the part of this SAP data monitoring and remediation project. So let's look at the data steward. Rules are executed nightly by a combination data stage and a script. And I guess I should mention that we use data stage jobs to pull the information out of SAP, load it into a set of staging tables. We've created, in some cases, views on those staging tables to make the rule development easier. But every night, the data stage executes to extract from SAP. Every night, the rules are run, unless they are in remediation. In other words, if the exceptions have been generated, those exceptions have not been closed, they're still being worked on, that rule will not fire, so you don't get doubling up on the rules. So the steward logs on in the morning and updates the source data in SAP if needed, and then logs into the steward exception to communicate, to collaborate with the manager or owner in terms of fixing the exception sets. So here's a small segment of the data flow, of the business process flow. Number one, they receive email for those high priority exceptions. Just for the high priorities, you can label a rule as high, medium, or low. The high priority rules are emailed, the exception set emailed to the steward of record as part of the business process management system. And now the steward can pick that email up, apply the fixes to the data in SAP, and simply log into the business process center and communicate that it has been fixed by selecting the Fix button. We'll go through that in detail here. A couple of other options is to look at the exception dashboard and to um, and to claim the task and then either approve or um, submit for approval by a manager. So let's look at what the email looks like. This would be an email to a steward. Attached to the mail is the set of exceptions, and we can see that the spaces are what caused these rows to be in exception. The next part of the workflow is to perhaps look at the dashboard to see what exceptions this person as a steward has outstanding. When they log into the dashboard comes up customized for that steward. If a manager logs on, it's going to be customized for that manager, meaning that they would see all of the exceptions for their team, all of the stewards underneath that manager. We can also click on Overview and get a more general view. We can generally see exceptions by project, by provider, owner, status, priority. So you get to see how you're doing and how the exceptions are laid out. Also, we can click on the exception set button, which gives you a report list of all the exceptions for, in this case, it's a steward. So these are the exceptions owned by that steward, what state they're in, what the priority is when they ran, that kind of thing. And we can click on the Stewardship Center button right from here. Now, prior to doing that, the steward would, as it shows down here, fix the exceptions directly in SAP. And so they'd log into the SAP screen and actually fix the rows that require remediation based on the information that they saw in the exception set that was emailed to them. Once that happens, then of course we come back here, log into the Stewardship Center. Now this Stewardship Center requires a separate login from IIS. In this case, it's because we did not implement the LDAP. Had LDAP been implemented, we would not have to go through a second login. But each login is assigned a role of steward, owner, or manager. It's also possible to assign multiple rows so that if that steward is also a manager, that person would see any exception sets that were being approved in the same workspace screen. Let's go look at what my workspace looks like. Actually, here, we'll just go onto the system. So if we look at our workspace, we see that we have a number of exceptions that are overdue. There's some that are at risk of being overdue, and there's some that are due later. And these are all based on timers that are set within the system. I think they're based on 7-day timers right now, that the exceptions are run and then they'll sit in being due for 7 days. When it gets close to that 7 days, they become at risk, and then after 7 days, they're overdue. But in any case, I can look through my exceptions and then perhaps pick an exception off the list. And now at this point, I have a number of options, things I can do. I can submit the fixes to a manager for approval, conflict resolution, that kind of thing. I can escalate a task saying, I have no idea what to do with this. Manager, you fix it. But the escalation and the submission go to the same person. In one case, they're saying, here, I've done some things with the fixes. In other words, I can go down here and click on a row, edit an exception, go in, make some modifications to that row, save that back out, and then submit that up to a manager. Or I can approve the fixes down to an owner or over to an owner to have them do the fixes. Or if I've already fixed them in SAP, and really that's really where we want to do the actual fix, of course, I can come and say, apply the fixes, and at this point, that task disappears off of my exception list. It was here on the bottom. Now I have another one that I could go fix, but that task is now completed or closed is the status. In other words, the status back here in the exception is I've just closed that one, and I would have one less here. This is all of them. How was I? I was logged in, I think, as silvers here. So we'll look at just the exceptions for silvers. And I think I had 11. what do we have here? 8, 11, 12. Oh, I guess I had 13. That's right. Now I have 12 because I closed that one out. Well, in any case, once I log in, I get to pick a task off of my workspace, my work. And you'll notice that in some cases we see the word data steward, some cases we see nothing. Once I select the task here, I've now claimed it. And the open for any data steward goes away, and only I can see it once I've claimed it. In the beginning, all the tasks are available to all the stewards, so more than one steward can come in and work on tasks. And we can manage that, customize that for specific stewards if need be. But the bottom line here is that there's a lot of things that a steward can do here, as you saw with all those buttons. This flow represents the different options. I claim a task, and at that point, I have an option to either escalate to the manager, export the detail to a file so that I can work on the fixes in batch. Now, when I say work on the fixes, I don't mean fixing in SAP. I mean creating a spreadsheet with the suggested fixes that the steward thinks needs to happen to that data set. Or I can fix the exception records one by one. I showed that too. In any case, once I go through that process, then I have the option of either approving the fixes down to have an owner take care of it, or submitting the fixes up to a manager to resolve any conflicts or deal with appropriately. So that is here's the different things that I can do. Escalate the task. I don't know what to do with it. Manager, take care of it. Export the set here. I should show that if we're in the portal, and let's say we accept, how many do I have here? Let's say we accept this to fix these records. There's only 2 of them. They're both null. Well, in any case, I want to export that. Continue the website, and we'll open that item. And we say instead of record ID and rather than the address being null, I have address 123 main, main, and 456 Oak. In any case, I will save that. There we go. And now we come back. Now it's out there. So now I come back in here. Now it's out there. So now what I want to do is import that from the from the export I just created. I think it was this one. Well, in any case, I'd import that back in, and then that would be available to then submit a fix. So if I submit the fix, that change that I've just imported with that spreadsheet now has just been sent up to the manager, and the manager can see what I've been fixing. All right. So that would be submitting a fix, importing, fixing in the Stewardship Center. Now, approving a fix and applying a fix is taking the role of a manager on to approve it and the role of the owner on to apply it. Let's see so down here, this is the owner swim lane, and I can come over here and I can say, where is it? I can say, oh, that's what this line is here. I can say, apply the fix, and it actually closes. So I'm taking the role on of an owner. Or I can say, approve the fix, and I'm taking the role on of a manager to push it down to an owner to work in SAP. Point is that the steward has a very clean line of either they fix it and close it, or they don't know what to do with it and escalate it, or they can set the fixes in the spreadsheet and then approve the fix so that they send it on to an owner to fix in the SAP by someone else. And the other thing is, once I've submitted a fix, the manager may choose to reject the fix, and back it comes. And now I've got, as a steward, I've got update rejected fixes. So I go in and I now update. And I say, wait a minute, based on comments, I should have shown that too, that when we're fixing a record here, one of the things we can do is put comments in. I have fixed these records now. And once I submit that, now that message pushes up to the manager. And so the manager may push it back down and say, hey, look, you've got more work to do. And so once I do that, I have to pick it up. And then the only thing I can really do at that point is submit it back to the manager to approve. Okay, now the data owner is considered someone that all that they do is monitor the dashboards and apply fixes in SAP. So rules are executed against SAP, data owner monitors the dashboard if they so choose, and they're notified of changes to processes and data coming from the manager or from the steward. In other words, when the manager or steward approve fixes, the owner receives the exception set to be applied into SAP. And so it's a very simple workflow. At that point, they'll log into the Stewardship Center to close the exception test. I should say, once they've fixed it in SAP, they then log in and close the task. So they too receive email when there is an approved exception set. They'll receive the email and they'll receive the exception set itself. So with that email, they can then take the exception set, see what has to happen, update it in SAP, and then what they'll do is update it in SAP, and then what they'll do is come back into the Stewardship Center. And now at this point, I'm the data owner applying a fix. I simply say, apply the fix. I could export the files to get it, but in the case of that we've just looked at here, I've received an email with that same set of records as would have been given to my laptop from exporting. All right, and then the data steward manager. Now they're going to be receiving submissions and escalations from the stewards, and they too have a relatively easy workflow. It is the data manager periodically reviews the data steward team activity using the dashboard. So as a manager, if I log into the exception manager, and let's say that my team consists of Mr. Silvers, Mr. Silvers, Mr. Guberud, Mr. Kumar, and Mr. Sekar. And so now, rather than just 11, you're probably going to see quite a few more. Yeah, someone's got quite a few, 422 test items on this account. In any case, this is my team. There's quite a few out there. I should look at it by owner. This owner, Mr. Kumar, is woefully behind in his status. Most of them high priority. Many of them just created, not even claimed or picked up by Mr. Kumar. So in any case, I can look at my team and see what's going on here simply by going to the, right now this is the overview. I can drill further into the summary of these three team members, right? So this is acceptance test by status, priority, process by owner, and then by age down here, so I can get a handle on how my team is doing. So the data manager then will assign or receives email to review and approve data fixes that are coming from the various different stewards. The data manager may consult with other stewards and propose additional fixes based on the fixes that he receives from the various different stewards. And then he can update the workflow by either approving for an owner to actually apply, or by rejecting the proposed fixes back to the steward. So this is the simplified workflow. I receive email that somebody has approved, or submitted a fix, periodically go into the dashboard, and then decide whether I'm going to accept or reject the fixes. This is what the email looks like. the dashboard, the summary that I showed. And then there's also the details here, that if I were to click on details, I no longer look at the graphs. I'm looking then now at the all of the different exception sets without priorities, in this case without owners, but also in process and by process. And then finally, I can go to the exception sets, click on the stewardship center. Now I might also note that the different statuses are: an exception is created once it's clicked on by a steward or by a steward. It is then a status of claimed. That claimed task or exception set can then be submitted for review by a manager. They're reviewed and then approved by the manager. They can be reviewed and rejected by the manager, or they can be applied to the data source by the owner. And finally, they can be escalated from the steward, again, to the manager. In all cases, the last step is to apply fixes, and that either happens by the steward or the owner. And in that case, it is closed and it goes off the dashboard and off of the work list. So the Stewardship Center, again, this time we log in as a manager, and we have only the option to approve fixes or reject fixes. By approving them, we send the fixes back onto the owner's swim lane, and by rejecting fixes, we send them back to the stewardship stored lane. And so this is the same kind of screen where I see the fixes. I can refresh. I can move through the various different pages of that. And that then is the Stewardship Center exception management handling of the information analyzer rules. Thanks for your time. Bye now.